It is a time of holy war. The light of Pelno faces the darkness of Ridu. Much of the world is desperate for food and shelter. In this trying time, thieves are becoming more and more common. We look upon one now. His name is Linus. He wears a soldier's guard and is currently walking out of a barracks. In his cloak, he hides what valuable objects could be found among the soldier's equipment. Isn't long before he meets with his buyer. Hey, what have you for us today? Only the finest wealth in all the land. Looks to me like 3 daggers and an amulet. Cheap amulet, too. What about the timekeeper? The enchantment needed to run one of those is quite costly. Yeah, but it's not running. Guy you took it from probably kept it for sentiment. I wouldn't worry too hard about that. Many men would buy a broken timekeeper. Then you sell it. As for the rest, 7 gold coins. Can I get 10? Maybe? No. While I love our negotiations, I am running short on funds. Unlike normal, that is fair price. Man, times really are tough. They'd be less tough if you ran the shrines. Yeah, but then the charge is treason instead of petty theft. Tell you what, you've been here long enough. I got a friend who's about to do a job and is looking for an extra hand. But he isn't a rogue by trade. Someone new joining the criminal enterprise. I'll bet he chickens out before the first theft. It's a general. You're working with the military now. Pelno or Ridu? And what rank? Pelno. And I just told you his rank was general. Okay, but how high in the rank is that exactly? Below cleric, but in charge of everyone else. What would he need a thief for? I'll explain if you take the job. Alright then, long as the pay's good. Be back tomorrow before Kong, and I'll introduce ya. And so Linus went home. Well, sorta. He goes to a cave south of town. Like most folks, he keeps a few tracks stopped to discourage intruders. A simple dart shooter at the entrance, triggered by a tripwire that is easily stepped over. The darts he stocked it with are not lethal, but some ground moss is attached to the tips to convince someone who doesn't get struck that there is poison. Then he walks around a little pitfall a little bit farther in the cave. Then he makes it to his living space. It is nothing to be proud of. A cot, a blanket, some food in a basket, a supply of copper coins. At the back, he removes a lid from a hollowed stone, and he adds his recent profit to 4 existing coins. He could probably go a week on that. He sleeps and the day passes. In the morning, he set out, grabbing 5 gold coins, and bought 3 blocks of pemmican, a kind of meat brick that can be stored for long periods of time. He also buys a loaf of bread. Most of the people he talked to were women. Most men of the region were either soldiers guarding the town or left to fight the war. A cleric stood at a nearby shrine and put her hands onto a sick man, healing him. Linus approached the shrine of the area, placing half a loaf of bread and 1 gold coin onto the altar. He spent some time in prayer. This part always bothered him. A thief praying was not a common sight. Soon a priestess approached.
Pelno's blessings to you.
Pelno's blessings to you. Have you received word about how Dalathon's war effort is going?
I have some bad news. His military was recently slaughtered. I know you had family among them. I'm sorry.
Let's let out a sling of profanity so long and detailed that the priest decided to back away without claiming the offering. After a moment, Linus cooled. He left a block of pemmican, hoping to apologize for the outburst, and exited the shrine. He arrived to meet the general later that day. The man was tall and muscular. He carried a sword with an engraved sheath and wore armors most soldiers would kill for. He stood next to the buyer from before and peered at the thief as he arrived. He holds an axe. I thought thieves used quieter weapons. Linus considered for a moment how to respond. His friend gave no such thought. You, sir, are looking at one of the only enchanted weapons in the realm, not devoted to the war. It has never made a thunk since its crafting. It muffles whatever comes into contact with. Once you use it on a wolf mid-bark and cut off the sound in the middle. That is to say, it's a quiet axe. No wonder it's not in the war. That's a nearly useless trait. I suppose I might as well ask. What's your name? And why are you hiring a thief? Klaus. And I need to steal something. Alright, where, what, and you will be paying 50 gold coins. This opening price was outrageous, but the armory had deep coffers. You will be stealing a holy relic. It is in a Ridu stronghold. I will be guiding you there, and I will escort you on the journey back. I estimate it will be a week in both directions. And would you like to increase your charge now that you know the job? Oh, you're stealing a Ribu holy relic? Why not invade and destroy it yourself? You have them in. It's one of our relics. They are using it as a hostage to prevent invasion. It was stolen in a recent battle where they routed the Dalithian militia. The Dalithian militia. You recognize the name? I bet you robbed them. My brother was among them. Ow. So will you take the job? Yes, but I'll need 20 coins up front. I need some rations for the journey. He tossed a pouch of money to the thief, letting it hit the floor so that he had to scoop it up himself. I'm meeting with a few other thieves today. Be ready to leave by the end of it. The next hour was spent buying rations. Linus knew he had to be careful with what would spoil and what would keep. He also returned to the shrine and gave 5 gold coins. The priestess he spoke to before thanked him and promised the money would move towards the war effort. By the end of the day, he had met up with Klaus again and was ready for the journey to steal the relic. He had hired a second person, a woman who wore roguish clothes. Linus paused. He more often than not wore a heavy cloak with a green side and a dark side that would invert if he were hiding, and a simple tunic and trousers beneath it. Unless, of course, he had a disguise, such as the soldier's garb currently at his cave. She wore an actively dark outfit that looked more like how a book might describe a thief, which made it seem as if she was an experienced one. Meet our priestess accompaniment. Oh, they're sending priestesses now, too? The mission need to be supervised by a religious figure.
I'm Eliwick, my friends call me Ellie.
Her voice was slightly unnatural. It suggested she learned the language through magic and was likely from another region. I'm going to call you Wick.
What no?
Come along, Wick. We are going to need a head start on our journey.
Don't you start.
And thus the journey began. The priestess observed it was rather hot as she had prepared for travel in dark clothing. Linus pulled a spare tunic from his bag partway through to offer it to her. She accepted it, and Klaus wondered if he'd hired a competent thief. The first day was rather uneventful until they began to camp. Alright, so after we get to their stronghold, we are looking at walls, guards, a shrine, likely a cleric, and we don't know where they are keeping the relic. So what exactly is your plan to steal the relic? Well, let's look at our resources. A thief, a priestess, and a general. We definitely won't be able to fight our way in, so the best course of action would be for me to procure a disguise and scout the building.
Should I go with you scouting?
Wick?
It's not Wick.
Wick, do you think you can convince the guards you're a big, strong soldier?
Of course I can.
Okay, give me your best big man voice.
Alright, you can scout alone.
Klaus, I'm still a touch curious. What about this artifact is so valuable you can't risk its destruction in a siege or invasion? As far as I know, nothing. The cleric saw that it was in danger and forbid my plans. I could march 1,000 men to their death if I want, but the clerics are still in charge.
Well, it is a holy war. Besides, those artifacts are our history.
It's a bloody war. Sacrifices must be made. I will say, it's very bold of you to see over this personally. Hiring criminals isn't word I want to get out. Also, let me get something straight. The story the soldiers will hear is how I single-handedly fought and stole the relic and escaped.
We don't get credit.
Ah, I see. It will rally the troops and convince them the enemy's weak. One man can take on 50 of them. Exactly. They will do what I say, but the morale has been weak since the Dalithan militia fell. You have never seen such fanatic soldiers. To even hear of them being cut down brings fear upon many troops. The group slept soon after that, and morning continued their journey. After a while marching, Klaus seemed bothered by something. He told Linus to wait a moment while he moved forward.
So how did you become a thief?
I didn't want to be a soldier.
On that topic, how did you avoid the draft?
My brother got me out of it. He was a cleric and had the influence needed. I farmed for a while, but war came and I got pushed to a city that didn't want me.
Oh.
At that point, Klaus made it back. Hey, we're gonna start moving again. But no more fires and stay beneath trees when possible. Some soldier thing I don't know about?
Clerics of Rito can project their minds into birds.
Correct. And I think they're watching for an army, so as long as we remain unseen, I think we should be fine. So, all birds are suspects?
All birds can be controlled, but they can only see through the eyes of one at a time.
They continued the trek for 2 more days. It became less of an adventure and more of a melancholy journey. When they were about a day from the fort, it rained. It was quite miserable. Linus had a dry change of clothes for himself, but not one for Wick. Wick changed back into the dark clothes and the former sets were left behind. Klaus developed a cough from the weather, but a prayer of healing from Wick fixed it. Before long, they came upon the fort. It was positioned in a clearing beside a lake. Most of the land around it had been cut down, so approaching unseen is unlikely. In addition to that, the entire area was covered in heavy mud, making approaching it difficult. Klaus pulled out a spyglass. I always wanted one of those, but they ain't that helpful for practical uses. They are when you're commanding an army. Okay, Thief, here's what we got. There's an outer wall. It's built of logs, and there's a keep in the center. It seems to be out of stone. They have guards at the entrance, and right inside the walls they have a bunch of tents set up. I would estimate they have a small army of around 300 men, so if you can blend in among them, you should go unnoticed. This would have been a quick siege, but what do I know? There's also one particularly large tent. I'm not sure what it's for.
Okay, so how do we get in and out with the artifact?
Watch this. He dropped into a nearby mud pile and covered himself before making his way to the keep. This allowed him to blend in with the mud, and given they didn't have watchtowers, was enough to approach. Once he made it to the wall, he pulled out his trusty silent axe and cut a small gap into the wall. From here, he peered into the camp. About 3 paces to his right, he saw a pile of equipment. In front of him, he saw mostly small soldier tents. The soldiers weren't bustling ready to battle. They were injured. Most of them, anyway. The area was full of wounded people. A larger tent stood, and Linus understood this was likely the cleric's quarters. The soldiers seemed to still be recovering from the last battle, and there were still a lot of injured among them. He moved to a beam to the right and cut another small hole in the wall. This one was big enough for his hand. He reached through and pulled out a soldier's tunic. Careful about ruining his new equipment, he slowly made his way back to his allies. A large number of them are sick. If we can convince them that we are aid, I think we can make it into the fort without documentation.
So what is your plan?
Can redo clerics heal the way you can?
I think I'd have a hard time passing myself off as a Rito priestess.
Clothes do wonders. We just need redo vestments. And where would we get those? The party moved and are now viewing the lake. Linus changed into his soldier's garb. It was somewhat bright shade of yellow, nice for an army separating friend from foe, but bad for hiding. The lake was a short walk, but mostly private from the fort. They watched it for a day and a half to see soldiers occasionally coming from water and to clean items, until eventually the area was cleared around dusk so that the cleric of the group could bathe in privacy. There appeared to be one, and the spyglass suggested it was a girl. Okay, change of plans. I don't think we get to scout. The missing vestments will be observed, so we need to get them. Wick changes into them, and we can approach pretending to be Yade. I imagine we have an hour at most before they figure it out, so we get in, take the relic, and flee immediately. Wick, go get the vestments.
Wait, what?
You will blend in with the dusk due to your dark clothing. Just be quiet and hurry up. Are you going to have me do anything? Provide a distraction if you hear noise. I can do that.
I got them.
Good, good.
Can I go behind that tree or?
Just hurry up. Let's go. Okay, let me do the talking. Hello! Me and Lady Hinu here were sent to enhance y'all's healing. We heard about the battle. Do you have a letter of entrance by chance? We have a priestess. Surely that's enough. Fair, fair. Do you have any news from Turk by any chance? I have some family that lives there, and they've been worried about a siege. I'm not sure. Names have gone jumbled in my head since the war started. I only really know where I just was and where I'm going next. Yeah, it gets that way. I'm mostly familiar with some of the surrounding areas because I'm trying to get promoted. You see, commanders are being given enchanted cloth now. Huge boon to the chances we survive the war. Seriously? I'll need to get my hands on a map and start studying. Oh, sorry. Move along, move along.
They are moving around us.
They are making way for a healer. You go that way. There are some men that need healing. Heal a few until you're tired. I'm going to go find a map. Alt. Why do you wish to enter the shrine? I wanted to pay my respects. I just came with a healer from Turk. I see. I shouldn't let anyone in till the cleric is back. I haven't been to a shrine in several weeks. It's beginning to weigh on my spirit. Please? Tell no one I let you pass. Linus walked into the room and saw something he was not expecting, but quickly understood inside the shrine. As a mobile shrine for war, it also served as lodging for the cleric. And inside, a somewhat large bird could be seen digging through the clerical vestments of the tent. Its eyes had a glint of intelligence, and it paused when Linus entered. I just want to pay at the sign. Klaus stood watching for some time. He watched the bird leave. He considered for a moment, then looked back to the lake, where the priestess lay blind and deaf to the world because she occupied a bird's mind, the leader of this group, unguarded. Please? Okay. Guards are around him now. They know the bird had been controlled, and they are ready to arrest the intruder. I just wanted to pray at the shrine, please. He noticed a pause and suspected what had occurred as the intelligence left the bird's eyes. Okay, squawk if you don't want me to enter. The bird flew off. The soldiers weren't sure what to do, but then Wick arrived with 2 soldiers at her side.
He is with me, let him go into the shrine.
While a wiser man would have been suspicious, denying a cleric of Redo is a dangerous action, and the entire army is loyal to that name. Linus didn't need long to find the relic. It was the only item of value not on a careful, meticulous display. It was a simple circlet and easily concealed under his cloak. After he exits, Wick is standing there.
Let's go.
Of course. And as they left, they met with Klaus, who carried the head of the priestess, and departed from the camp after a job well done. Hey, before you leave, could you please subscribe? Thank you.